Hey, this is Jack, and this video is called the #1 way to improve your boundaries. Hey, I'm Jack Butler. If you're new here or you haven't yet subscribed, I want to invite you to subscribe to my channel. I release at least 2 videos every week on relationships and personal growth, and this is a really awesome and real community to be part of. So just hit subscribe and tap the bell notification so you hear new videos as soon as they come out. And one other thing, if you haven't, I want to invite you to download my He's Your Guy checklist. It'll be the first link beneath this video. And if you are dating a guy, or there's someone in your life or someone that you're looking to let go of, you can just run him through this checklist. It takes less than 15 minutes, and it will give you a good understanding of whether this is a guy that's worth you remaining in connection with, or a guy that actually wants to show up for you. So click the link, download the checklist. I'd love to see your thoughts. So let's get into today's topic, which is boundaries. Boundaries. We're all talking about boundaries all the time, right? This has been a really sort of hot topic over the recent years, decades, and gets talked about a lot. So I just want to add something that I think is often left out of the conversation, which is what lets us know ultimately where our boundaries are, like where a right or true boundary is. What is the emotion that tends to let us know where a right or true boundary is? Any ideas? The emotion is anger. Anger is what lets us know where a boundary, right, a physical, emotional, psychological boundary has been trespassed. It's also what lets us know if a value that we hold dear has been trespassed. So if you want to wake up and become a more real human being, the thing you may want to practice getting in touch with is your anger. Right? And so right off the bat, I'm going to make a distinction. All of us in our worst moments, we act out from our anger, right? Someone cuts in front of us in the car, and then we want to overtake them, and we want to scream something at them, or, in our moments of trigger, right? We might get really angry to the point of acting out, where we are threatening or aggressive or any of these kinds of things, right? So the distinction we're making is that being in touch with your anger means I notice, oh, I feel angry. Like, that's just step number 1. I notice I feel angry, and I can drop the perspective that feeling angry is unevolved, right? Where we're coming from in this video is the perspective that whatever is actually happening, I want to be in touch with it. That's the evolved thing to do. Right? The evolved thing is not to take something and to hush it under the carpet and pretend it's not there. The evolved thing is to notice, there is anger present right now. Right? And for most of us, in order to be able to do that, we need to be in touch with our bodies, because our bodies are the place that anger lives, right? It tends to be, for most of us, we feel anger in our belly. You may experience it in other places as well. But just being able to befriend yourself, notice that this is a healthy part of being a human. It's a healthy emotional response. It's a navigation system that we have that lets us know, oh no, actually no, that's not okay with me. Right? Now, where does this get tricky in a relationship? Where you have a no might not be that it's always an easy yes for the other person, right? Sometimes you might have boundaries that clash, right? Or different things that you both are a no to, or you need, right? So there's a lot of skillfulness that goes into navigating what is actually a boundary I need to hold, what is maybe a preference that I have that I can actually be flexible on, or how can I put my boundaries kind of into the mix, right? Where we both volunteer, hey, this is something that I'm a no to, and how can we find a way between us? How can we co-create something where actually our no's and our yeses ideally all get included? Now, this is particularly important. I got a question on this recently. If you or anyone you know has been in the experience of what we call spiritual bypass, right? This is where we're actually ignoring our experience in the moment, right? We're ignoring what's actually happening physiologically and emotionally for us to come from perhaps a higher perspective that maybe our mind gets, or maybe we get in our meditation or our spiritual practice. But we might go around with a little judgment on other people, that they are too emotionally reactive, that they're not peaceful enough, they're maybe not evolved enough, right? If you or anyone else has had experiences like this, this could be an important piece for you, right? So if I bypass the fact that I'm experiencing some anger, where is that anger going to show up, right? It's probably going to show up in one of 2 places. The first is I'm going to project it unconsciously onto other people, right? So even though I might be sitting on a lot of anger, unmetabolized anger, right, to the point where if I really contacted it, maybe I would feel like I'd explode, right? Some people talk about this as like the atomic bomb in the basement. So I don't want to feel that I've got that in the basement, so I imagine that it's over there with you, right? That's just the mechanism of projection, which, projection is a form of defense, right? It sometimes helps defend us, in this instance, against our own experience. It allows us to operate a self-serving bias that imagines that kind of we're okay and the problem's over there. The other place that it might show up is that you have angry people around you, right? If you disown anything enough, it will tend to show up around you. It's kind of like an irony of the universe, or we could say it's the universe trying to wake you up. So if you have the experience that other people are angry a lot around you, or that you're just kind of innocent and people pick on you, or you're just a pure innocent being who is love and light and other people are dark and angry, or some version of that, I want to invite you to get a little bit more curious about what's actually going on for you. And are you in touch with this emotion, right? There's probably very few of us, particularly if we are engaged in the world, right? By which I mean we have a job or a career, we share living space, we are in a family or a relationship, right? So unless we're so retreated from the world that we don't really interact with people, for most of us, at some points, anger is going to be the healthy response, and is actually just going to be what is already happening, whether you acknowledge it to yourself or not. So if that's true, and you notice, oh, actually, yeah, I'm never angry, I'm never in touch with that, I never feel that way, and people kind of pick on me with their anger, or they explode at me, just get curious, because it might be that your lack of relationship with your own anger is now showing up in other people, right? That there's a sort of like an unconscious systems dynamic or relationship dynamic that you're creating with other people, and it has the anger show up over there. This can even happen, by the way, if you've ever been in a group, let's say at a seminar or a training, and maybe there's someone that's kind of always getting a bit upset, or they're disappointed or frustrated or angry about how the course is going, or how the aircon is, or how all sorts of things are. You can actually swap seats with that person, and sometimes it allows you to access what it is that they've been experiencing, right? Like in any particular system, there is normally a conduit for some of the stuff that's going on. So, all of this is just to say, open up your curiosity, even in society at large. If you find that there are people, groups that are angry, and none of this is about tolerating, political violence or any of that. It's just saying, maybe I could be in less polarization with them, because I might actually get curious about my own relationship with anger and the things that do piss me off, the things that do not work for me, the ways that I let people trespass on my boundaries, the ways that I roll over, the ways that I pretend I don't have needs, the ways that I've minimized my needs so that actually I don't need to rely on other people, or I've minimized my needs so that I can have this story that I'm good and okay and self-sufficient, but actually there's a deeply emotional, relational part of me that isn't really fulfilled, because not all of us, or many of us, I imagine, are really designed to live a fully hermitic life, right? For some people, that does seem like that's the true path. But for a lot of us, we can move into some of those orientations because it's messy to be in connection. It's messy to figure things out. It's messy to talk about responsibilities, to talk about money, to talk about how we're going to depend and show up on each other, right? So this can be a really good, if messy, if difficult area of exploration. And when people talk about having better boundaries, sometimes the people they'll look at are people that have really strong boundaries, right? And strong boundaries can be great. What might be even better than strong boundaries is kind of the minimum effective boundary, right? It's sort of like taxation, right? Taxation is necessary in the way that we've constructed societies up until now, mostly. But we kind of want the minimum effective taxation, right? Even people that are pro raising taxes for social programs, they're not kind of looking for taxes to be higher than they would need to be in order to fund what needs to happen. So with boundaries, we're kind of looking at what's the minimum effective dose, right? So that I can have selective permeability, right? Which is a cellular phrase from biology, meaning, I want to let the cell wants to let the right things in and keep the wrong things out. But if I have hard, strong boundaries all the time, I kind of tend to imagine I'm more self-reliant than actually I truly am. And I tend to keep people slightly at arm's distance. And I sort of have this don't mess with me attitude. I sort of have, I'm just going to speak my mind no matter what the impact on other people is. And that's probably not the best way of being in the world. It's probably not the truest, most authentic way to your authentic heart, to your authentic emotional experience. and to the part of you that is deeply social and relational and perhaps wants a partner and maybe needs to cultivate some attunement and sensitivity, right? That's the thing, that if we have really hard boundaries, we're leaving out that sensitivity. I'm not even aware or able to attune to the impact on you because my defense is up, my walls are up. So boom, I can just come with the big news, the big truth bomb, drop it in your world. I don't really care too much about how it's landing in your world because I'm not even available to that. I don't even probably have that relationship with myself. So why would I care so much about how you feel about what I've said to you when I maybe don't even have that kind of care and sensitivity for myself? Okay, so if you want to work on your boundaries, work on your relationship with authentic anger, finding ways to express anger healthily, right? We all want to move anger out and through, right? We don't want anger to just get stuck in our bodies, right? So for a lot of us, how do we do that? We do it through movement, we do it through dance, we do it through working out, we do it through breathing, right? If you've done any kind of more rapid or fire-like breathing, we do it by pushing into a wall really hard, right? Something that it's like it can withstand our anger, so we can push at it. We might scream, we might go in our car and put the music up and get into a place and just allow ourselves to emote. There's plenty of ways that you can do it actually once you start to notice the need for it. And sometimes, by the way, it is something that needs to be said, right? It's not just, oh, I got angry, let me go process it. It's like, actually, I need to explore that in this connection. But by starting with the owning of it and owning that when you're angry, you might therefore have an impact on other people, and trying to keep it narrow and focused on the specific issue at hand, right? That, and I just hold my hand up here, that's the hardest thing sometimes if you're getting into tense territory or conflict with someone. It can be hard to stay narrow if this has been an issue that's perhaps related to other issues that haven't been metabolized or other threads that you're noticing. And just as we start to, sometimes if we're triggered enough or in conflict, our capacity is starting to diminish and some of our self-serving biases are going to be operating more clearly. Our memory is going to go into a bit more of a flight, fight, sort of survival mode. So it starts to remember the things that seem to be issues with survival. So just notice, if you're going to befriend your anger more, you've got to cut yourself a little bit of slack, because how to be calibrated with perhaps the emotion that in some ways is least calibrated, right? Anger is hot, it can come fast, it can want to be destructive. So if you're going to start to befriend your anger, just cutting yourself some slack that, you may burn a few things, including yourself, right? And so you may need to apologize, you may need to make up for something, but it's really only in fully engaging and embracing and sometimes almost going a little too far that we actually know where right relationship is. So I think anytime we are opening up to being in relationship with something that traditionally we haven't, we have to cut ourselves a little bit of slack, right? And it may not look pretty always, and people around us may not always understand, but you might be doing the kind of work that's really important for your freedom, your actualization, and your integration as a real, authentic human being. So I'd love to know, what's your experience with this? And again, if you haven't, just click the first link beneath this video, download my He's Your Guy checklist. This is a really valuable checklist for any of you that are thinking about, is this guy someone I want to be in relationship and connection with? Maybe he's been a bit hot and cold. Maybe he's being mergy with me. Maybe I don't really know where I stand with him. Just click the checklist. It's simple. I've kind of condensed it. You can read it in 10 to 15 minutes and you can run any particular guy through the 9 checklist points and it will give you a sense of, is this something I want to pursue or not? As always, I'm Jack. Thanks for being here. Like this video, give me a comment, let me know what you think, and I'll see you in a future one soon.